ABC News contributor and Georgia RICO attorney Chris Timmons, who has worked alongside Fani Willis. Thanks so much for your time. Does this ruling take away Willis's credibility?
It does, Stephanie, in the sense that a lot of the language in that order is scathing. I mean, I've never heard the term, odor of mendacity. He also suggested that her testimony during the hearing was unprofessional. Neither one of those things are things you want to hear when you're a prosecutor and you're reading over an order. So it does take away some of her credibility. It's still a win, though, and I don't think we want to take away from that, in that, she's able to proceed with the prosecution. Nathan Wade resigned today, which means that, she's able to go forward. And as long as there's no appeal, which probably is unlikely in this case, then I think she's going to be fine.
And Fani Willis has responded to Wade's resignation, praising for his professionalism. Despite being able to stay on this case, do you think she will step aside from this case following his resignation?
I don't think she'll step completely aside. I do think she'll move to the background, though. District attorneys in the state of Georgia, particularly in the larger counties, don't actually try cases. They have more of a bureaucratic role. They've got more of a managerial role. And so you haven't seen a ton of Fani Willis in this case. I mean, it seems like you've seen her because anytime anything big breaks, she's had a press conference, but you haven't seen much of her in the courtroom outside of her actual testimony, which is what we're seeing now. So when it came to arguing the motion, she's generally passed that off to other attorneys. And I think when we get to trial, even though she's an accomplished trial attorney and has the rare skill of having tried a RICO case before, I don't think she's going to be sitting at counsel table. I think she's going to go back to her role and let her very capable deputies and the two special prosecutors who remain in the case take the ball and move it forward.
And Chris, former President Trump has also responded to the news on the platform Truth Social. If you were on Trump's team, would you be happy with this ruling? What do you think they're feeling right now because of this?
I mean, I don't think they're happy with the ruling itself. I think they wanted to have Fani Willis have to recuse herself or her disqualified, which would mean that the case would go into a prosecutorial limbo, it'd be in no man's land. And so if the case went into that no man's land, it would probably languish for months, if not years, before a new prosecutor stepped forward who would handle it. So from the standpoint that Willis remains on the case, it's a loss. But in terms of all the language and the scathing opinion of Judge McAfee in his ruling, I think it's a little bit of a win. Still, I think they're expected to appeal the case because delay favors them in this particular case. The closer they get to the election, then the less likely this case is to be tried before the former president has an opportunity to be potentially elected in November. So I expect an appeal out of them. But at the same time, if you look at the order itself, there's a previous order that came out a couple days ago with regard to 6 counts being dismissed from the indictment. And he wrote in that opinion that he would grant a certificate of immediate review, meaning he would grant an appeal of that. There wasn't this same language in this particular order. And one of the requirements of appealing something like this that's before a final decision is that the judge has to agree. He has to issue that certificate of immediate review. The fact that he didn't put that language in this order suggests that he's not going to be amenable to having this order appealed.
We will have to see what happens. Chris, you mentioned earlier that Fani Willis may take more of a background role. What comes next overall for this case?
So the next step, the very next step, is the decision by the defense whether to appeal or not. There's a possibility that the state was going to appeal, but the fact that we got this resignation today from Nathan Wade suggests that the state's not planning to appeal. He resigned. There's no need for them to appeal at this point because Fani Willis stays on the case as a result of his resignation. So the next step is going to be the defense attorneys deciding whether they want to file an appeal. And it's an interlocutory appeal, as I mentioned, meaning that the judge has to approve it, but also the Georgia Court of Appeals. We'll know within 10 days, because it's a 10-day requirement for the judge to approve that appeal, whether that appeal goes up. So March 25th is going to be a big day, and you should mark it on your calendar for this particular Georgia case, because we'll know on that date whether the judge approved the appeal or not. If he does nothing, it's still a choice. If he does nothing and doesn't rule on it, then that is the same as denying that interlocutory appeal request, meaning that the case won't go forward, at least as far as an appeal is concerned. The case will be headed down the tracks towards trial.
And Chris, please mark it on your calendar as well, because we will most likely have you back. Thanks so much for your insights.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Thanks,
have a good weekend.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.